Do not be afraid. So yeah, as you've been told, I'm Nick. I'm a third-year student at Regent's Theological College, and I'm doing a block placement with you guys, with your young people and Eccentric, to be slightly more precise. And I originate from Cambridge, so you won't be surprised, but this is boat-related. Punting, rowing, you choose. So yeah, I'm going to be talking about when Jesus and Peter walked on water in Matthew 14. But just to kind of start off, I wanted to make sure I broke the ice with some nice jokes. So I thought of coming up with a funny title. So I had Deep Faith. Yeah, there we go. I'm really sorry for these. I was really stretching it. I've got Water Skiing with Jesus, but that got rejected very quickly. Peter puts his foot in it. That was one of my favorites. And A Sinking Kind of Faith. Yeah. But I went for a more unwitty one with The Sinking Stone. Yeah. As people kind of work out what Peter means and stone, and yeah, I played with words, creativity. So yeah, I'm at Bible college at the moment, so I've gone for the standard 3-point sermon. So the 3 things I'm looking at are 1, the Peter who stepped out, 2, the Peter who sank, and 3, the Peter who climbed back in. So now I'm just going to read that passage. It's Matthew 14, 22 to 33. So that's Matthew 14, 22 to 33. Immediately, he made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead to the other side, while he dismissed the crowds. And after he had dismissed the crowds, he went up the mountain by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone. But by this time, the boat, battered by the waves, was far from the land, for the wind was against them. And early in the morning, he came walking toward them on the sea. But when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified, saying, "It is a ghost!" And they cried out in fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them and said, "Take heart, it is I. Do not be afraid." Peter answered him, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water." He said, "Come." So Peter got out of the boat, started walking on the water, and came toward Jesus. But when he noticed the strong wind, he became frightened, and beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me." Jesus immediately reached out his hand and caught him, saying to him, "You of little faith, why did you doubt?" When they got into the boat, the wind ceased, and those in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God." See, before I actually really dig into this, I'd like to highlight that the primary meaning behind this passage is simply that Jesus, as the Lord of creation, is present in the lives of people in a physical and material world. So that was true back then when this happened, when he walked on water and he helped Peter. It's true today, and it will continue to be true. And that is a fundamental truth. But also, I want to clarify why I'm choosing Peter to look at, because we're going to be looking at Peter more than Jesus. One of my performing arts lecturers actually tries to write as much as he can without having Jesus in like plays and stuff and sketches, because he's too good. He's too hard to actually portray. How can you have this perfect guy and correctly portray him as an actor? How can you portray pure divinity? How can you portray pure man at the same time? It's just too hard. So then to look at the more real, Peter, a man who, to be honest, keeps screwing up. There's so many times that it's noted down in the best-selling book of all time that he screwed up. Just some examples are Matthew 16, the revelation of Christ, where he goes, "You're Jesus." No, you're Christ. Of course he's Jesus. You're the Christ, to which Jesus is like, really good, we're going to change your name. And then straight away after, Jesus is like, "And I'm going to die." And he's like, "No, you're not." He's like, "You're Satan." Doesn't kind of bode well for him. In the Transfiguration, when Jesus goes up the hill and there's bright lights, Moses, Elijah, crazy stuff's happening, Peter's just like, "Oh, brilliant, let's build houses." And Jesus is like, "No, we're going down." And he gets shot down again. Matthew 26, Peter's denial. Jesus has just been arrested. He gets asked 3 times, aren't you a disciple of Jesus? And he says no. In Acts 10, with Peter in the story of Peter and Cornelius, there's 3 times again he has to be asked to go to Cornelius' house. It's not all bad. He did do pretty well. Just check out Acts 2 and 3 at Pentecost. He's a disciple who stands up, preaches. It's incredible. So he is very good. So because of that, I'd say he's one of the most real guys in the Bible. I'm not saying the rest are fake and didn't actually exist. It's just he's very easy to look at in that reality. Plus, one of the reasons I know that he's got personality and this affected him is that it's not written in Mark's gospel. That might not seem like a big deal to you, but it's understood that John Mark, the guy who wrote Mark's gospel, would have heard the stories and been writing on behalf of Peter. So for the fact that this bit about Peter walking on water isn't included in Mark's gospel means that Peter's chosen not to tell this part. So that's one of the few reasons that I'm looking at this. So now we're going to move on to the first point of the Peter who stepped out. One thing to consider when he's on this boat, as we think about this narrative, is that Peter was a fisherman. Before he was a disciple, before he followed Jesus, he was a fisherman. He knew the sea, and I'm pretty much sure he knew the risk of getting out of the boat when it's in the middle of the sea. I even know that. I don't fish. So he definitely knew that. He even knew that the particular sea they were on, because it's the same sea that he was fishing on when Jesus first called him. So he probably knows kind of what to look at when the waves get choppy, when the winds come in. He knows where to go. So when Peter becomes a disciple, I don't really know what you know about first century discipleship, but technically you shouldn't have a job before you become a disciple. You are constantly a disciple from birth. You're kind of being educated in your local synagogue, and you go up, you become a disciple of a rabbi, and then you continue until you become a rabbi yourself. So he wouldn't have his job, but also disciples would long to do everything they see their master doing. Their particular rabbi, they would want to do everything they did. So Peter, as the disciple, I would say, sees Jesus walking on the water, and his instant thought is, I want to do that, because that's how first century discipleship worked. He saw Jesus walking on the water and thought, I want to do that. As well as that, because he shouldn't have been a disciple, he wanted to prove his worth as a disciple. He wanted to prove that he was worthy of being able to follow on and being given this discipleship status that he shouldn't have had. So he had the kind of faith that says, if he can do it, I can do it. At the same time, Jesus says, it is I, to which Peter instantly takes the initiative to step out, or to ask to step out. He doesn't wait for Jesus to go, hey, why don't you guys come join me? We'll have a disco. He doesn't say that. He just says, Peter himself goes, Lord, if it is you, command me to come and join you.